1985, one man, Bob White, claimed that he'd found a fragment of a UFO.
I was traveling from Denver to Las Vegas with a young lady named Jan. And in the high desert, if it's a bright, clear night and the stars are shining, which it was, you could see forever. I was asleep when she woke me up and asked me what this strange light was. I didn't know. So I stayed awake and we watched it. As we got closer to the light, it got bigger. We stopped the car to look at it. The light was so bright, I had to shield my eyes like this to look at it. She turned the headlights on for some reason, and when she did, this thing just shot up in the air that fast. And when it got up in the sky, it connected to another light, and then this object was ejected from it. When I first saw it, it was glowing red, and it just looked like a glob of something. And it was too hot to touch. My first thought was, what in the world could it possibly be? What could this be?
Once the object cooled, White placed it in the trunk. What you are seeing is the actual object White recovered.
This is what it looked like after it cooled down. The only difference is the end piece on here was rounded, and that was cut off for an analysis by Los Alamos.
The jagged fragment, measuring 9 inches in length and weighing over 1.5 pounds, was subjected to isotopic ratio and other elemental composition tests at the U.S. government's Los Alamos National Laboratory. After several weeks of testing, White finally talked to a technician.
He was very excited about it. He said, "This is definitely extraterrestrial. It's something I've been looking for all my life." And I said, "That's wonderful." So I told newspaper columnist Mike O'Brien that. He called and talked to the same scientist. And the same scientist told him that he didn't say that. And he said, "My bosses have instructed me not to talk to anyone about this." And that was the end of the conversation.
Los Alamos would not return phone calls or respond to inquiries for this program regarding the unusual sample. White sent the object to 8 different labs, including MIT, New Mexico Tech, and Scripps Laboratories. While they all concluded that the complex structure was mostly aluminum, White feels that its origin may have been revealed in the results of one of the tests.
One that I consider to be the most important was done by a scientist that was on a team of scientists that found a meteorite in Antarctica, and they found a meteorite in India. And they measured the isotopes in strontium and determined that they were from Mars. Well, the same people that did the analysis on those things did the analysis on the object that I have. And the measurement falls right in between the two from Mars.
Another anomalous fragment, nearly identical to White's, was found some 40 years earlier. The story was confirmed by declassified U.S. government documents.
They have an object almost identical to this one that was recovered by the CIC, the Counterintelligence Corps, in the 1940s in Denmark. And their words, not mine, their words, is it's a piece of a flying saucer.
In 2004, White passed 3 separate polygraph tests administered by both law enforcement officers and a certified polygraph examiner to further authenticate his claim. But still, he found no help getting his story out. The journey drained his savings and his spirit.
I didn't ask for this to happen to me. I didn't need this. Didn't want it. Didn't want people to call me a UFO nut. And I didn't even believe in anything like this. But once you see it, once it happens to you, you have to be a believer.
We've seen photos and videos of UFOs, but now we may even have more tangible evidence that they're here. Bob White says that he saw a UFO, it saw him, it shot something to Earth. He picked it up and he says it's a piece of a UFO.
If this is the real thing, I want to see it.
When it went up into the sky, it was something I had never seen before, and I had the feeling it was not of this world.
Hi, good morning. Hi, Bob. How are you? Although we've looked at other UFO trace evidence cases, Bob's is different. He says he has an actual piece of a UFO that he discovered after an amazing encounter in 1985. Bob, could you tell us how you came into possession of this unique-looking object?
I was in Grand Junction, Colorado, between Grand Junction and Cisco, Utah, and it was late at night, and the lady friend and I were driving. We saw this light up ahead. This was a huge light. It was about the size of a 3-story building. But she turned the headlights on me, and when she did, this thing just shot up in the air like that, just as fast as my eyes could follow it. And it connected to 2 other lights, like 2 blue neon tubular lights, one on top of the other, with a space in between. And when it hit this, it just shot out of sight. But before it did, I saw kind of a little explosion light. This thing came back down toward me. There was a groove in the ground, and I followed the groove in the ground until I saw this thing lying there, and it was still glowing hot.
So after Bob sees this object, he heads out to where he thought the piece had landed, and he sees this groove in the ground, as if this piece came down at a high velocity and skidded to a stop. Now, this is the first time I've heard a story like this, and the fact that he not only found this piece, but has it to show, is amazing.
So, Dr. Gibbons, have you done any work yourself on this?
Yes, I have.
Dr. Robert Gibbons is a physicist who's formerly worked at NASA, Northrop Grumman, and Hughes Aircraft. He served in the U.S. Army for over 20 years, and his entire experience he's never encountered anything quite like the Bob White object. In the year 2000, he joined Bob White's team to determine once and for all what this object really is.
So we went to Laughlin, Nevada, and during that time, the object affected the batteries in the wall safe at the hotel 3 days in a row. The batteries had died and were broken open the first day. People from the hotel had to come up and put on an electronic meter to open the safe. The meter said the safe is open, yet it was not. So the first night they had to drill it. This happened 2 more nights in a row. There must be some effect coming from the object, some kind of radiation or something causing those batteries to go dead.
Whatever caused this safe to malfunction, it was obviously not an isolated incident. So to determine if it was some kind of X-ray or gamma ray, Dr. Gibbons set up a test utilizing dental X-ray film and the Bob White object.
I made a cylinder. We put a film, unexposed film at the top, unexposed film at the bottom, and then we had facing in on the cylinder films. And we came up with a really, really interesting conclusion. These are the actual dental X-ray films. The one of importance is the one with the 2 black spots.
Right. So you're saying you held the object up to
Actually,
X-ray?
Actually, this sat on the film for 48 hours, and during that time, something exposed the film, not just fogged it, but put 2 distinct spots which match up with the 2 lobes, if you will, of the object.
It looks like the object has 2 distinct lobes, as Dr. Gibbons calls them. And in this X-ray test, when you line up the film with the object, the 2 lobes match up almost perfectly with the exposure on the film.